like when you look at your own experiences, you can have a great experience. But the thing is, how do you take that great experience and make it even better as you are now in the role of parent? And that's what I'm thinking about. And
What's happening, y'all? This is Mike D with Black Fathers Now, where we're bringing the village to the brothers. Every couple of weeks, you can look forward to a quick inspirational message or a thought-provoking guest with knowledge and wisdom, all geared towards helping you be the best father that you can be. We're bringing the village to you. Now it's your turn to do something with what you learned. All right, y'all. Let's go.
what's going on, fellas? This is Mike D, Mr. Double Down on You, your favorite personal development coach, with another episode of Black Fathers Now. Now, fellas, ladies, look, I hope everyone is doing well, making the most of today. And I hope you're making the most of today. You know, today I wanted to drop something on you. And it's a thought that really came to me, but it's something that I believe we should all consider. And it's recognition of a difference. And that difference is this: the difference between growing up and being raised. The difference between growing up and being raised. You know, I came to this conclusion very recently. You know, I'm originally from Augusta, Georgia. I was born and raised in Augusta, Georgia. I lived in Augusta, Georgia from birth until I finished high school. And at that point, I moved away for college and never really lived in Augusta permanently, you know, after that point. But I was born and raised in Augusta. So from age 0 to 18, I was in Augusta. But I actually grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee. I was born and raised in Augusta, Georgia. I lived there through high school and moved away when I left for college at the age of 18. But I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee. See, I moved to Knoxville about a year after college. So after I finished college, I was around 22, and about a year later at 23, I moved to Knoxville, Tennessee for a job. And in essence, I've been in Knoxville ever since. So I've been in Knoxville for 18 years, right? And maybe it's this reflective moment of I'm now in a place as long as I was at the place in which I was born and raised, right? So I spent 18 years in Augusta, and at this point, I've been in Knoxville for 18 years. And in between the two, you know, I had 4 years in which I was in college and a little bit of time after college in Atlanta. But again, was born and raised in Augusta, but I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee. See, when you think about the concept of being raised, it's outside input, right? So growing up, you know, I had family and friends and mentors and all of that stuff in my life. And the thing that was interesting about it is that when you're being raised, you know, you're being led. You know, I was led to things in education or into sports or into community organizations or into doing this and to doing that. And everything was led from the outside in. Being raised comes from the outside in, right? It's not internally derived because you have other inputs that are helping to pull you along, right? But then on the flip side, growing up is from inside out, meaning that's where you internally grow and develop. And for me, I look at the formative years of me actually growing up were from ages 23 to 35. Between 23 and 35 is when I really came into my own. That's when I really had to internally grow and start to become the man that I am today. Now, I'm in constant growth and development, you know, so I'm not where I'm going to be. But when it comes down to actually growing up, to actually taking initiative, to actually starting internally and figuring things out and starting to really develop independence and go through challenges and really having to figure things out on your own, it really did not happen until around the age of 23. And it's funny because high school I was being raised. When I was very young, I was born and being raised by parents and, again, family and extended family. But I didn't really personally grow because there was so much influence coming from the outside. And then I even think about this, as I went off to college for me, because of the fact that growing up, it was just, or coming up, it was just, me being born and then raised. When I went to college was in essence an extension of high school. It was pretty much high school with no parents. And that's my personal experience, because for me, I was being raised, but I didn't really grow up yet. And so college was just, hey, I'm just going to do more of what I did in high school. We can just take it up a notch because we don't have parental oversight, right? And I didn't really have any responsibilities, right? I didn't have to take care of anything. It was just, hey, follow what somebody says do, follow this protocol, listen to what this person says, and just keep following what they say do. But it really did not, it was no incentive for me to personally grow because, the stakes really weren't that high because I had no responsibilities. The responsibilities did not really kick in until about a year after college when I moved to Knoxville around the age of 23. Then I was truly on my own. Yes, I still have relationships and I still had parents and all in another city and, family and extended family and friends. But the reality was that was the first moment in which I was forced to grow up, because at that moment I had to take responsibility for myself. See, that's the thing that's so interesting. There's a difference between being raised and growing up. Being raised comes from the outside. It's outside influences. Growing up starts internally. That's when you really start to take initiative and start to become who it is you are supposed to be. And so thinking back when I was reflecting on this particular, this particular difference, I thought back to the notion of what if I grew up while I was being raised? What if I grew up while I was being raised? So therefore, where do you find that effective balance of being led by family and extended family and friends and mentors and leadership? Where do you find that balance of being led, but then also that balance of that level of independence and initiative and really figuring things out for yourself? And that's where I think now as a parent, of an almost 10 and an almost 8-year-old, where I want to infuse a little bit more of this growing up process for them while my wife and I and our extended family and friends are raising them. So it's like when you look at your own experiences, you can have a great experience. But the thing is, how do you take that great experience and make it even better as you are now in the role of parent? And that's what I'm thinking about. And I'm in constant reflection mode of how can I take my experiences? How can we take my wife's experiences, put them together, but then also think about where things could potentially have been a little bit better to better prepare us, as we, grew up or, came of age in the process. And how can we then do that and implement it in the lives of our children? And so for me, it started with the recognition that there's a vast difference between being raised and growing up. And so I want to raise, or my wife and I want to raise our children, but we also want to facilitate an environment in which while we're raising them, they can also grow up. Because remember, being raised is outside in. That's us in our village imparting wisdom on them and showing them the way. We're raising them. Growing up is inside out. We have to make sure that we also, at the same time, facilitate an environment in which they grow from the inside out. Because I think when I look back on it, there would have been a lot more scenarios or more scenarios in which I optimized opportunities that I was in the midst of had I done more growing up while I was being raised. Like I mentioned earlier, college was just an extension of high school for me. because I hadn't grown up yet. I was immature. I didn't know how to take the, proper advantage of opportunities. I didn't understand building community and, learning and doing this and doing that. And so for me, again, college was just an extension of high school. I wasn't ready for it because I had not grown up. And that's no knock on my parents or my village. They did a great job raising me. It was just one of those scenarios in which I didn't have that internal drive to really grow up on a personal level until I got a little bit older. And so now for me, it's about finding ways to facilitate an environment so that our kids, while they're being raised by us, can also grow up. Because when those two things come together, that then prepares them to take advantage of opportunities, to take initiative, to, really build on the ability to become independent so that when opportunities strike for them or when something is presented to them, they're in a better position to take advantage of it. So when they go off for college or when they go off for training or to start businesses somewhere or whatever, just move out the house, once they're grown, when they go and do that, if they are raised and they grow up at the same time, my theory is they'll be better prepared to make the most of that situation. All right. But yeah, just think about it. The difference between being raised and growing up, and take a look back at your own personal life. And I want you to think about, when did you actually grow up? And were you growing up at the same time in which you were raised, as a youngster? And just think about that. Reflect on that. And if you were, drop that in the comments, man. I'd love to hear some of your stories about how you grew up and were raised at the same time. But if you're kind of like me and you come to realize, you're like, yo, I didn't really grow up until after I became an adult. Talk about that and think about situations and circumstances that, were a result of that. And but I'd love to get some dialogue started here, because at the end of the day, the goal is for us to be the best that we can be so that we can raise our kids right, but then also facilitate an environment in which they can grow up right, because we want them to be the best that they can be. All right. Well, hey, as always, make sure to visit blackfathersnow.com, subscribe, and share this thing out with as many folks as possible. Like, this podcast is really about personal development. As I say, I'm Mike D, Mr. Double Down on You. I'm a personal development coach, and my calling in life is to help bring insight, inspiration, and wisdom to the masses so that we can all walk in purpose and be the best versions of who we are supposed to be. It's about creating like Dream Team 2. We want, everybody to work together as a team, but we want each component of that team to be optimized. Because when we have the most optimal individuals on the team working together, ooh, Lord have mercy. Yeah. They better get out the way. All right. Well, hey, make sure to also visit Black Fathers Now as well for my new course, Jumpstart Fatherhood. If you are an expecting father, like if you're about to be a father for the first time, register for Jumpstart Fatherhood. Literally, it's going to give you anything you can think of and imagine necessary to help you step into fatherhood with courage and confidence. And all right, y'all. Until next time, y'all be blessed, well, and wise, and I'll holler at you. Peace.
Yo, fellas, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And always visit blackfathersnow.com, as well as follow Black Fathers Now on virtually every social media platform you can think of. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. Just follow us and engage with us, man. Look forward to hearing from you. And I guess until next time, I'll holler at you. Peace.